Rob from Rob's Gaming Network and Plamotaku present Master Grade Sandrock Endless Waltz version. Hello everyone, welcome to a special first edition of Plamotaku's Sprue World here on Rob's Gaming Network. This is what I've been waiting for, a chance to do Gundam and other model kit reviews so you can see whether there is a kit that is right for you. I've gotten a new JVC HD 1080p camera that's a mouthful, and I'm pleased it can perform what it needs to do over my old dinosaur that shut down in 3 minutes of 480p footage. Because that's what it wasn't designed to do extensive video, it was designed to do really good pictures. So what's even better? I can plug the JVC into a wall outlet and take video, like a boss. So when you open the box, you're going to get this really nice CG art in your instruction manual. And I really like the quality of the Bandai manuals from 2006 on. So when you open it up, you'll get some information in Japanese about the anime Gundam Wing. You'll see the original mobile suits from the anime. You can see how totally different Sandrock is. You'll get some more Japanese text that I don't understand. And here are the manga versions that Hajime Kotoki redesigned. You'll get some information on Endless Waltz. The OVA, you'll get information on the anime, and that's Catra Rababa Winter there. It'll also show you the different sub-assemblies that you'll have to build, the shield, the body, the right arm, the waist, and whatnot. It gives you some wordings on where you need to cut, what you need to cut, and don't cut in particular spots. You'll also get a couple of pages that show you the different runners. If you're missing a runner, you'll be able to reorder them from Bandai. Unfortunately, though, and as you'll see here in a second, that it's for use in Japan only. So people like me, we're screwed. So don't lose anything, please. There'll also be X's over parts that you won't be using, and you'll probably be using them in the Endless Waltz kit for the Sandrock Custom. So it'll show you need to build the body. It'll show you the different steps you need to take, you need to be careful, and you don't really need to understand Japanese in order to build these kits. If you use common sense, it won't be really hard to build them. So it goes over the legs, the body, and in the middle it'll give you some more really beautiful CG art and text. Unfortunately, I cannot read because I cannot understand Japanese. It'll show you the different Gundams with it as well. An advertisement from the manga, Frozen Teardrop, the novel. It'll show you a couple of different interesting poses as well. The stock art that the artist went over, those really, really nice heat show tells that do heat up, and I plan on painting those instead of having the clear red. You'll get that machine gun, which I've heard has given a lot of people problems, and just a different pose with the different Gundams that you can get from this set. And as you look, you can have different gimmicks, and here's the paint guide. I will not be following it. I will be painting this mobile suit in its OVA version colors from Endless Waltz. So starting with the chest, you'll notice that Bandai went with the standard colors for Sandrock. Granted, this isn't the anime version. I would bet you they extracted the colors from the show and used them for the manga version here. You'll notice some nice detail underneath the chest vents. On top of the chest, you'll notice these missile pod looking thingies, and I can't really tell what they are. They can't be missiles. So it took me a while to figure it out, and I think I know what they are. They must be a ventilation system in order to keep the sand out of Sandrock's joints. I wasn't trying to be funny. Unlike the Epion's cockpit, which could be harder to open, it's fairly easy to open the cockpit to Sandrock. And like all other XXXG frames, the arms will pull out like I showed, and the neck will tilt back almost 90 degrees. That's almost guaranteed when you're buying a new Master Grade nowadays. Looking at the waist section, you're going to get a fair amount of detail, and we've come to expect this from recent Master Grades nowadays from 2010 onwards, maybe even a little earlier. When you look at the front, you're going to notice a lot of color apps here. You're going to see white on top of yellow. It looks almost like a Death Scythe gray, or purplish gray, but not quite. But at least they're giving you piece to throw on top of piece to throw on top of piece. And if you look here carefully, I didn't really snip that too well, so I'm going to have to go back and file that when I go to paint this, and I'll make sure that that fits properly. But the front skirts will move. You have to be very careful, because if you do have the legs on here, front skirts will pop off. It's not a big deal, but if you're going for some really crazy maneuvering, it's not going to work out for you too well. But these are independent moving skirts, very articulate. And now if you look on the sides, these are the side skirts. They're very interesting in how they have this little, I don't want to call it quite a horn, maybe like a tooth sort of thing coming out of the top. That's really cool. There's a lot of color apps here. I love what Kotoki did on this lower waist. This will move up and down just a little bit. When you move to the back, these are completely independent back moving skirts, but I don't think you're really going to need to move them all that much. But I haven't really had problems with them popping off. And one thing I always like to do is to raise all the skirts, the side skirts and the back skirts up like this. And it kind of looks like a I guess it does kind of look like a flower. Originally, I thought it would look like a spider, but it'll show all the detail underneath, and if you really want to be pro about it, you can go underneath here and paint it, but even I'm lazy when I go and paint my kits, and I'll just leave that alone because I'm never going to hold him up and look up in his groin and say, hey, look, I painted this detail. You wouldn't see it otherwise, so I figure why not? Why just bother? Don't bother with it. So you'll notice under here the XXXG frame. This is standard for their legs, and it's rather firm. It's hard to move, so that'll be good, but there's nothing too special about it. You just plug one thing in and you plug another thing in, and that's all you're going to get for the lower body. And when you look at the head sculpt, you're going to notice a lot of really nice fine details. I really like the Roman centurion helmet kind of look, and it looks like there's some opportunities there for some panel lining and some detailing. You'll also notice that Sandrock has a really, really, really large helmet, and this adds to the fact that he's heavily armored. There's some nice detail in there that is part of the inner frame that'll show you gray Vulcan cannons. The faceplate looks like it has some room for detail. Of course, you have your standard V-fin, your standard chin. There's even vents to the left and right of the chin, which is really neat. But one thing that I do not like about this head mold is that there's a massive seam line going down the side. It's not necessarily going over the top, but the sides of the helmet. And if you look in the ova, the part that's right under what looks like the broom head, that's actually supposed to be there. But the part behind the Vulcan cannons, that seam line is not supposed to be there, so that's going to have to be taken care of, unfortunately. And to be really careful when you're assembling this, because right above the V-fin, there's a tiny little camera piece up here that is actually a piece that you have to snip off of the sprue. You need to be very careful because it's tiny and it can get lost very easily. Other than the weird color app with the yellow on top of the Roman Centurion, I'm not sure what to call it, sweeper head thing, I'm a pretty big fan of this head mold. The shoulders have this weird gimmick that I don't really understand. This piece slides downwards and reveals a polycap. It was necessary to join a flap to the armor, but I don't understand why the part slides down. I'd appreciate it if someone could enlighten me if you know. When I look at the arm unit, I think of two things. Well, really three. Pharaohs, sand, and a scarab. When you see the shield to this thing, you'll get the scarab motif right away. You won't get much movement out of the flap on the top, but you will get some movement up and down on the lower flap as the arm moves in and out. For angles, you'll get about a 70-degree bend and no more. The wrists are on a unique mechanism where a small square part moves with the wrist to allow the hands to move around. And for the wrists, like most Gundams, you will get 360 degrees of rotation. Ouch. Sandrock comes with removable manipulators, and you'll get quite a few. And when he's all put together, he's looking pretty fantastic. The arms will move out about this far. Yeah, you won't get too much. It's kind of like doing a hula hoop. The waist will move left and right like this. It does look kind of funny. If you do take the head, he can kind of do the funky chicken. Not really. Kind of. I think it's good mobility. So if he's flying like this, he looks really awkward in this pose without wings. But if he were flying, the head can move that far back. You could get some pretty good detail with that. One thing that kind of threw me as odd, and this is the way in the OVA as well, if you look at these vents on the top of the, I don't want to call them on the top of the shoulders, but on top of the chest, these two little things that, supposedly they're supposed to be missiles and they're not, but if you look at the way that the chest goes to the back of the chest, they're two different colors, and that really threw me off. I'm thinking, you know what, I should just paint that one color, but when you go to look in the OVA, they're actually two different colors. In terms of waist rotation, you can, with a little effort, you could do a complete 360, so that's pretty cool. The legs will move out at about, yeah, you could get a 90-degree kick. I don't know if you can get a char kick. No, it looks like I'd have to twist the leg like, no, that looked really painful. Looks like you can get a 90-degree kick out of it. I don't think he's gonna, nope, it's really hard for him to stand doing that. But if you do the flat foot test, oh yeah, it goes out very, very far. That's excellent. And one thing I did forget to mention is that with the new XXXG frame, you actually can move the arms forward like this, and if you're careful, not careful enough, you will actually pop those off. And if we look at the legs here, and close the thigh armor a little bit, I had a problem with that on my Master Grade Wing Zero. You can get the leg to bend up with that 180 like so, and that will look very weird, looks like a contortionist, but if you need to pull off some really weird poses, some really extreme poses, you can get it done. But let's look at the weapons.